The form of the resolution is as follows. Declaring the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives to be vacant. This is the uniparty for the American people watching.
Yeah, if you disagree with Marjorie Greene, you're the uniparty. Well, call me John Uniparty Iadarola, because I disagree with her too. It was nice to see her booed, okay? And that was basically the final attempt, I hope, I pray, of Marjorie Greene to boot Mike Johnson from his position and to stop with that sideshow and go back to all of the other nonsensical sideshows that she does. That effort failed, as you could probably tell from the booing. It failed really, really, really badly. It did not come close to succeeding. And we're gonna get to how pathetic an attempt to boot him from his position it was. But I wanna focus first on how bad of an overall experience this was for Marjorie Greene and how utterly weak it makes her look. Now, as a side benefit to this, it actually is going to make Donald Trump look weak thanks to his late involvement in the process. We'll get to that, stay tuned for that. But first, this.
Develop and grow our majority by building upon our resources and expanding. He instead led us to another CR on January 18th, 2024. And got it passed with the support of 207 Democrats. And all Democrat members of the committee voted to advance the measure to the floor. While removing this uniparty speaker will not give the speaker's gavel to the Democrats, which would only happen if Republicans actually vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Okay, so that was a lot of fun. Look, she should have prepared herself. Assuming that she understands that generally before you put something up to a vote, especially something divisive, you like ask around, do a whip count, you could do that sort of thing. She should have known whether it was gonna work or not. And by the way, you don't have to only go forward with it if you think it's going to work. You could use it as an opportunity. She sort of was trying to do that. It just can't have helped her in terms of the PR. And the fact that she was being booed down, not just by Democrats, by the way, as we'll get to, her Republican colleagues were going to town on her, and we're gonna have some amazing quotes on that. You can't just keep being huffy and looking around. Like you look totally alone, you look totally radical in comparison to the rest of the party. And by the way, like using this as an opportunity to try to push the idea of the uniparty. No, there are on incredibly substantive matters, effectively a uniparty. But the issue with Marjorie Greene is like with so much else in politics, she is there to be a distraction from what is really going on. In the same way that the culture war is a distraction from the economic policies that Republicans actually want, and Marjorie Greene is a willing player in that. Yes, she believes every conspiracy she's ever heard on the internet or whatever, but she also knows that it's an effective way to get right wingers to okay their own financial degradation.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the damage report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you.
The uniparty is about the things that get regulated and don't, the things that get funded and don't. And Marjorie Greene is almost never a critic of that. Throwing Mike Johnson out is not a solution to the issue of the uniparty, it's a sideshow. I really don't even care at the end of the day if he remains as speaker. I think that there are potentially some side benefits to having a government that functions, but it's not gonna function particularly well. So I don't even really care, but it's on her to make the case that she's done a terrible job of doing it. Now, others have made the case as to why she's the worst. You have Dan Crenshaw saying she needs her time in the spotlight, and it's been a while. And I think it's one last ditch effort to get attention is what she's looking for. Ted Cruz called her effort to oust Johnson silly. Representative Mike Lawler said that she's clearly gone off the deep end, maybe the result of a space laser, ouch. Says, but this type of tantrum is absolutely unacceptable and it does nothing to further the cause of the conservative movement. The only people who have stymied our ability to govern are the very people that have pulled these types of stunts throughout the course of this Congress to undermine the House Republican majority. 100%. And by the way, this is how somebody like Marjorie Greene I understand that it's repetitive, and maybe at a certain point it gets boring to keep hearing about space lasers or whatever. But when people so willingly rise to prominence, writing conspiracism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and advocating for political violence, do not let them live that down. And so if I have to hear about deep space lasers or whatever for the next 50 years, assuming I make it that far, I'm perfectly fine with that. But as I said, it wasn't even close. And so the vote to block the motion to vacate the speakership had 163 Democrats and 196 Republicans. 7 people on the Democratic side voted present, to be fair. And then the noes totaled 43. The noes are actually very interesting because you had Marjorie Greene and her close allies like Gosar and stuff like that. A lot of the other noes, though, interestingly, she's like on the far right, insane portion of the Republican Party. It's the most progressive members of the House that allied with them in this case. And so you had a lot of the CPC and AOC and that sort of thing. And I get the argument that they're making. Obviously, they don't want Johnson in office for very different reasons than Marjorie Greene is opposed to it. But in this particular case, it sort of made sense, I guess, for them to be allies. Now, that said, while she looked bad, as it was going on, she was getting booed and all that. I want to just mention 2 other funny aspects of this entire thing. So now that we know how this thing ended, okay, that she got barely any support from other Republicans. She got more Democratic support than she did Republicans. And by the way, she has often made the case that if you get more support from Democrats and Republicans, that you're a traitor to the right. So I guess she should leave office at this point. This is exactly the problem she had with Mike Johnson. But anyway, this move came after a 2-day stretch of meetings this week with Mike Johnson, in which she tried to negotiate a series of demands in exchange for not calling the ouster vote. Among the demands were cutting off all future US aid to Ukraine, defunding the DOJ, and imposing a 1% across the board cut on all spending bills if lawmakers are unable to negotiate a deal to fund the government in September. So now we talked about this earlier this week. And it seems like, I don't know, it seems like you're asking for a lot when I don't think this will work. But now in hindsight, she's sitting across the table from Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson is a religious crazy. He's a wackadoodle. He's a genuinely bad guy. But I am sure that he had talked to his caucus. He knew this thing wasn't gonna work. So he's sitting across the table from her. And she's like, well, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And he's thinking, you have no hand. You have nothing. Why are you asking me for literally anything? Honestly, if you're Mike Johnson, there's nothing you want more than for her to go through with it, because it makes your opposition look pathetic, look ridiculous. And they're not the only ones that look pathetic and ridiculous coming out of this. Donald Trump decided to get a little bit of that magic. So he put out this message, okay? And some of it makes sense that he would put this out. He says, I absolutely love Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's got capital S spirit. She's got capital F fight. And I believe she'll be around and on our side for a long time to come. I fear that as well. However, right now, Republicans have to be fighting the radical left Democrats and all the capital D damage they have done to our country. Stop capitalizing words. I'm not even doing it anymore. It's just too many. With a majority of 1, shortly growing to 3 or 4, we're not in a position of voting on a motion to vacate. At some point, we may very well be, as a warning to Mike Johnson, by the way. So blah, 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 but this is not the time. So he says, don't show disunity. Mike Johnson's a good man who's trying very hard. I also wish certain things were done in the last period of 2 months, but we will get them done soon together. It is my request that Republicans vote for the motion to table, in all caps. We will win big and it will be soon. And that theoretically could be a bold move. He is taking a side on this. Now, he's arguably taking the safer side, keeping Mike Johnson around. And he's sort of like, look, he says, I love Marjorie Greene, but this is also the thing she cares about most in the world. And he's telling her to F off with it, that it's a disastrous thing that could cost them the House. But it's not a bold move even to that extent, because he sent that truth after the vote had already happened. You pathetic little baby. If you're gonna take a side, at least take a side before the thing is done. He already knew that that side had won. Now look, it was almost guaranteed that it would, but imagine if he had called for, like for them to keep Mike Johnson, and then Marjorie Greene had miraculously gotten more support than she ended up doing. It would have been a bold stance. She would have rebelled against him. But none of that was true. So one of two things is the case. Either he is so scared of seeming out of step with the right that he waited until he saw the result to post that, or he has no idea what's going on or when, and he just opined, having paid no attention whatsoever to the process that was going forward. This was being live streamed, like the news was covering it, C-SPAN was covering it. You could know in real time what's happening. So either ignorance or cowardice, it's one of those two things. And so coming out of this, he doesn't look great, but Marjorie Greene looks terrible, okay? And I know that there wasn't really that far for her to drop, but to whatever extent she was hoping to move on from this to either her next feud or her next priority or whatever, I can't imagine this is gonna help her.